Hello guys, Jack here, and welcome back to MK48.io. If you don't know, it's a browser-based battle royale flash game where you use real ships to fight other players. You level up your own ships by killing them and taking the parts that they drop, or picking up oil barrels from around the map. You can see we're harassing this tier 3 ship because he can't fire backwards with his missiles, but we can launch torpedoes at him. The ship we're using is a G5 class motor torpedo boat from the Soviets, built during World War II, and there was 300s of them. Now we're on to the Momi, which is a Japanese destroyer from the 1910s, and you can see destroyers are what I use to get up to the tier 6 aircraft carrier, which is the main event, and they're pretty fun because they have torpedoes and guns. We just incinerated those guys with missiles, which is the OSA, which is a Soviet missile boat from the 50s. And I really like that one because those missiles are so accurate. We briefly pause on the Fletcher, which is that one that just flashed, and that's a US destroyer from World War II. But none of those ships we spent much time on. We absolutely zoomed to tier 5 with the Arleigh Burke, with hardly a thought paid to those early tiers. You can see there's lots of little guys, and we're just harassing them with all of our missiles. That's because the Arleigh Burke is a guided missile destroyer from the United States. It was first built in late 80s and then commissioned, so used by the military from the 90s until today. Interestingly enough, they built 73 of them so far. They're still actually building a few, and all of them are in service, so it's a pretty good ship. And here, now we get to the main event, the Essex aircraft carrier. You can see it has a really big view range, of course, so you can zoom out and harass people with your airplanes before they can even see you. One of my viewers told me to play this one, and you can see a nice torpedo dodge there, and then a surprise one. One of my viewers told me to play the Essex and said that even though it's a tier 6, it's actually better than the Clementine, the tier 9 French aircraft carrier. And I'm inclined to believe him. This Essex has a really good amount of health, and the 8 guns it has, very useful. You can see there, you can clean up ships that get too close to you, and sometimes it's hard to get your planes to launch their torpedoes accurately at them. And I just think I believe him. The real problem with the Clementine is that it doesn't have any guns, and it leaves you really vulnerable because you have to totally rely on your jets and helicopters. You can see here, playing with the jets is fun. Usually just choose a target and circle them. As you fly over, there's a chance that the ship will shoot flak and shoot your ship down. But generally, you're picking up so many materials that you can just keep all of your planes in the air. And I believe the planes we're using are Grumman TBF Avengers, which are torpedo bombers used by the US in World War II. And that would make sense because the ship was first built in the 40s and it was actually used until 1991. You have to be careful flying these planes around though because they can crash into the tall mountains. You can see just to my north there's a little tip of green on an island there, and that will actually cause the plane to crash. Here's a nice aerial view of the Essex, and this is obviously Essex class carriers of them. There was 32 built by the US, like I said, starting in the 40s. The last major conflict they served in was the Vietnam War, but then they also served a purpose later in life helping NASA like recover crewmen from ocean when ships came back down, or just satellite debris. You can see higher tier ships just don't even stand a chance. You just fly your planes over them and you get a few good torpedoes and they're all gone. The guest doesn't even know what hit him. My planes fly over, I clean them up with a few guns. And the one thing that's also really nice about this ship, and larger ships in general, is they have a very large draw range for their materials. So you're always getting a fresh influx, which sometimes you take a lot of damage because you're a big target. So it's good to have all of that. You can see this guy in Japanese clan spawns up to my north. He tries to escape by going to a submarine, but I'm following him. If you look on the scoreboard, you'll see that 10, 9, 7, and 6 and second place are all in that clan. So if I see any of them, I'm going to try and destroy it. Although they might get upset at me and try to come back later as I'm playing solo. One thing I've noticed, which is interesting, is that this game is really popular with Japanese players. At least I think it is because I see a lot of them. And I find that interesting how different games really resonate with different cultures. You can see we're taking a bit of fire. There's some random torpedoes coming from all over the place. We luckily dodge a few more. And then if you look to the north, there's the rest of the clan of the guy that I killed. Or at least I think it is. I can't read Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese. It looks similar enough to me. Oh, man, I swear I'm not ignorant. This ship, as you can see, it has 6 fighters and then 8 shells. And one thing I noticed is that the guns on this ship reload very quickly. They also have a really good range because they can fire pretty much in the full arc. And one thing you notice, especially on the lower tier destroyers, like say the Fletcher and the Momi, which were the tier 2 and 4, is when you fire one shot, and that's great. It aims, it hits the guy, but then the other guns are in such a weird position that even though you feel like you're aiming at them, the guns don't have the range of motion to hit them. So it doesn't even matter that you have more guns because you have to reposition your whole ship. Whereas this one, all the bullets basically go where you want them to. You can see we mess up some lower tier guys, but then there's a whole lot of stuff coming, and there's another Essex over there, and I didn't even see him, and he was really getting me good there. We respawn into this gold, which is another fun little ship, but unfortunately we get a really bad spot, so I try to launch some stuff at this other clan, but I just die right away. I take a second to recuperate, and we're back into the Leander, which we haven't used. That's fine. It's just another destroyer. Plenty of them around. Really common class of ship. But we only spend a moment in it, kill one guy, and then we're back onto the Essex. You can see here this guy in the amphibious craft is trying to climb onto the land to avoid death, and he actually succeeds. There's a ship in the south that I see that looks fairly high leveled, so I'm going to go after him. We don't do too much, and he manages to shoot most of them down. Some of the higher tier crafts have surface to air missiles, which can use to track on to boats and knock them out. I'm sorry, not boats, planes. Which is actually very useful if you're those ships, because these guys flying around harassing you can be pretty deadly. You can see there's lots of jets coming from the south. I'm shooting at them. To be honest, I don't know if it does anything, but it definitely makes me feel good. We launch our own planes in retaliation, but more to the story, we just kind of sail away. And I gotta say, can you imagine being out in the middle of the ocean fighting people? You know, if your craft sinks and you're in a submarine, you'll just die. And if you're in a boat, you'll be alone in the ocean in a lifeboat. If the enemy commits a war crime, they'll shoot you. I gotta say, Marines are just so brave. If you have respect for seamen and love bloats, please subscribe. You can see we have to go to an Ohio class submarine here. I was taking a lot of damage, so I just wanted to go underwater and avoid it. And I also, you know, despite another viewer telling me that the Ohio's a piece of shit, I really love it just because you can launch so many missiles like that. The Tomahawks are so funny, even though they don't deal a whole lot of damage. One thing you can see is sometimes if you're underwater, you know, subsurface in the submarine, you can't actually pick up the oil barrel, so you have to come to the surface to get it. We saw a ship coming down from the north, so I head over there. I want to take care of him. I get one of them. I launch a few at Weak Worm there. He's in a higher tier ship. It's not looking too good. I need to launch my missile diversion, but unfortunately it didn't come up. We managed to get to the skipjack, but that guy decides to ram into me, but I kill him. So that was a clan of 3, and I got 2 of them. Might have been larger, so I'm pretty happy with that result. We spawn in here in the Essex, in between 2 ships. You can see we take the guy out in the south, but then Destroyer comes in over there and mobs me up. And that's it. My reign of terror as an aircraft carrier has come to an end. Hey, thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for all the advice in the previous videos. Take care.